Have you ever wondered why certain lunches that were a big hit in the 1970s disappeared from the plate? Sit with me and take a trip through 20 meals that used to define the middle of the day. With each memory, a flavor and a story to spark your nostalgia. Toasted tuna melt on rye. Behind a straightforward sandwich, there's a story that explains why it became a common sight at American lunch. It all starts with tuna salad made with canned tuna, mayonnaise, and seasonings just right, spread over 2 slices of rye. Next comes the cheese, which goes onto the griddle along with the bread. It melts, holds the filling in place, and at the same time the rye browns and turns crisp. The most cited origin goes back to the 1950s in Charleston, South Carolina, when a chef dropped the salad onto a grilled cheese sandwich and realized the mistake worked. From then on, the build became standard in diners: layers, light pressure, controlled heat, and that exact point between toasted and creamy, ready for the next side. Fish stick sandwiches. In the 1950s, when convenience started running the kitchen, fish sticks showed up as a quick fix. Gorton's, from Gloucester, Massachusetts, put the product in the nation's freezers. It was one of the first frozen foods to get a big TV advertising push, and that spotlight helped change what a lot of people put on their plates. In just minutes in the oven or skillet, you got the crunch. Then you just tucked it between 2 slices of bread. The mild flavor worked with any topping, tartar sauce, ketchup, or whatever was on hand. That success wasn't just about food. It showed how the post-war years made room for processed foods that saved time in busy homes and rushed routines. That helps explain why it took over school cafeterias and how this sandwich became an everyday habit, paving the way for other combos. Pizza burgers. In the 1950s, pizza burgers found their way into American cooking by putting 2 classics in the same bun. The formula was simple: a grilled or pan-fried beef patty, topped with marinara sauce, mozzarella on top, and a few minutes in the oven until the cheese melted and started to bubble. Served like a regular burger, it delivered pizza vibes without needing slices. Soon, there were versions with pepperoni, green bell pepper, and in some kitchens the beef gave way to spicy Italian sausage, bringing it closer to old-school Italian restaurant flavors. By the 1960s, the idea had a clear home: school cafeterias and fast food chains, where convenience and novelty went hand in hand. And one bite was enough to see why this mashup opened the door for other twists that came right after. When Thanksgiving ends, leftover turkey becomes the star of a practical classic: the cranberry turkey sandwich. The idea is simple, but it works because it balances the savory meat with the sweet tart sauce. In the United States, this combo took off starting in the mid-20th century as a smart way to turn the next day into a real meal with no waste and no fuss. The build follows a ritual: 2 slices of bread, layers of turkey, a generous spoonful of cranberry, and, if you have it, a bit of stuffing to bring texture and dinner memories back. Some people warm it on the griddle, others build it cold. Either way, every bite connects what's left over with what can still surprise you in the next meal. And when you add leafy greens or a slice of cheese, the sandwich changes its whole vibe and makes room for other combinations. Fried bologna sandwich with cheese. Among the most popular sandwiches in the United States, the fried bologna and cheese holds a curious spot. It was born from practicality and turned into a taste of home. In many southern towns, it picked up the nickname redneck steak. not because it was fancy, but because it fed people putting in a long day's work. The recipe is straightforward. Slices of bologna hit the griddle until the edges curl and turn golden. Right after that, the cheese goes on, melting and stretching with the first bite. Closed up in the bread, the sandwich goes back to the heat to toast the outside and keep the inside soft. The result hits the table hot, nicely salted, lightly crusted, and creamy with cheese. The story starts in the early 20th century when bologna was cheap and common in the Midwest and South, and it became a diner staple. From there, it's a short step to playing with the format and the add-ons. Curried sardine salad sandwiches. When canned sardines became a pantry staple after the war, in the mid-20th century, a lot of people realized you could do more than the basics. That's when the curried sardine salad sandwich got popular. Easy to put together, but with seasoning that grabs your attention. It starts with well-mashed sardines and mayonnaise for a creamy base. Curry powder goes in for warmth, a bit of lemon to balance, and chopped celery for crunch. On bread, the spread works best with lettuce or cucumber, which cuts through the texture. And every country puts its own spin on it. In England, apple or raisins add a sweet contrast. In the US, hard-boiled eggs or capers add complexity and open the door to new combos. You can dial the curry up slowly, and between bites, the sandwich is already hinting at the next experiment. Olive loaf sandwiches. When it comes to a quick lunch, few things blend convenience and flavor like an olive loaf sandwich. This deli meat, with chunks of green olives mixed into ground pork and beef, became common in mid-20th century American lunches because it was easy to slice, store, and serve. For the build, you've got 2 slices of fresh bread, a layer of mayo or mustard to balance the salt and tang, and then the cold cuts take center stage. For texture, lettuce helps, and in some versions, a slice of cheese goes in without making it complicated. It became a symbol of a time when deli meats and processed foods dominated shelves and solved lunch in minutes. It's no accident it shows up in picnics and lunch boxes, almost always next to chips or pickles. It's the logic of a ready-to-go lunch that fits real life and still leaves room for tweaks on the next round. Peanut butter and bacon sandwiches. Imagine biting into a sandwich where creamy peanut butter meets the salty snap of bacon. This duo, which still surprises a lot of people today, defined a whole phase of American cooking in the mid-20th century, when mixing sweet and salty became almost a daily kitchen experiment. The bread, usually toasted, got a generous layer of peanut butter and strips of crispy bacon, creating a bold contrast in every bite. No surprise, Elvis Presley helped make it famous by adding banana slices, boosting the sweet side of this unusual combo and showing how willing people were to try new, memorable flavors. Around that habit, there was a vibe of curiosity, where odd recipes got passed around and turned simple sandwiches into a starting point for even bolder ideas. Spam and pineapple sandwiches. During World War II, Americans got excited about sweet and salty combinations, and Spam rode that wave hard. Introduced to the military in 1937, the canned meat made its way into home kitchens and became a practical solution during rationing. Decades later, Hawaiian food started influencing the mainland more strongly, especially after 1959, when Hawaii became a state. In the 1950s, with movies, music, and themed parties, the island flavor became trendy and showed up in everyday meals. That's where this sandwich comes in. Slices of Spam are fried until golden and crisp. Pineapple goes on the griddle to get lightly charred and a little caramelized. Everything meets on toasted bread, and if you want, mayo or cheese can go in to tie it together while keeping the contrast at the center of the bite. Peanut butter and pickle sandwiches. Can you imagine putting peanut butter and pickles in the same sandwich? In the US, this combo caught on starting in the mid-20th century and became proof that a simple snack can turn into a conversation. In the South, it's a comfort sandwich. Bread, a generous layer of peanut butter, and thinly sliced pickles lined up like seasoning. You can eat it open-faced like toast or closed in the classic way. The contrast hits fast, creamy and a little sweet, then the tang and crunch of the pickles, with salt tying it all together. The trick is managing moisture. Lightly toasted bread helps, and very thin slices keep the flavor from taking over on its own. To complete the ritual, a lot of people pair it with a cold glass of milk. And then comes the question that usually splits the table. Would you try it out of curiosity, or do you already know what detail you'd change? Egg foo young sandwiches. Picture a sandwich that showed up when American diners and Chinese kitchens started sharing the same counter around the mid-20th century. The idea was simple. Take a Chinese-American restaurant dish and make it portable, easy to eat on the go or during a short work break. Instead of steak or a burger patty, you've got an egg foo young patty. Beaten eggs mixed with vegetables and often a protein like pork or shrimp. That disc hits the pan, fries until set and browned, and then goes straight into toasted bread or a bun. To bring it all together, a thick sauce gets poured over the top without drowning out what's inside. Bean sprouts, mushrooms, and onion, switching between soft and crunchy with every bite. Served with a salad or a light soup, it becomes lunch or dinner with no effort. And just when you think you get the idea, variations show up that change the next bite. The macaroni and cheese loaf sandwich. Imagine opening a lunchbox in 1950s America and finding something that looks normal but isn't. A sandwich made with macaroni and cheese loaf. Instead of a filling, you had slices bought at the deli. An industrial product that pressed pasta, cheese, and ham into a firm shape, almost like a cold cut. The build was simple. Sandwich bread on the outside, the sliced block in the middle, and a touch of mustard or mayo for contrast. A lot of the time it came with a handful of potato chips or pickles, like a quick counter lunch. The idea solved a problem. Keep the macaroni and cheese flavor, but make it easy to eat with your hands. And that's how this weird sandwich earned its place in the everyday rotation, sparking curiosity before the first bite. For ground beef casserole with jiffy cornbread. Picture a baking dish coming out of the oven with a layer of cornbread on top, and underneath it, well-seasoned ground beef. That's the casserole made with Jiffy Mix. It became common on American tables in the mid-20th century when packed schedules called for fast, reliable meals. The mix itself helped make that happen. Created in the 1930s by the Chelsea Milling Company, it became a regular pantry item. The steps are straightforward. Brown the beef with onion and garlic, adjust the seasoning, and spread it in the dish. Then cover it with the cornbread batter and bake until it forms a golden crust. The result combines a soft topping, firm edges, and a juicy filling that holds heat and flavor, perfect for serving by the scoop. And once the first portion hits the plate, you start wanting to explore what else fits into that base. The chili cheese hot dog casserole is for days when you're hungry for something fast, but you still want it to feel like a full meal. It starts with a soft base. You can make dough from scratch or use crescent roll dough, which you unroll, press into the baking dish, and instantly create a cradle for the filling. Next, sliced hot dogs go in, spread out evenly, followed by a layer of chili. Canned works just fine, pulling flavor into every corner. If you want, chopped onion or a little heat can go in here before the cheese. Then comes a generous topping of shredded cheese, and in the oven it all comes together. The top bubbles, the base browns, and the smell brings everyone to the table. When you serve it, each slice mixes spice, saltiness, and that cheese pull. Great for simple dinners and no-fuss get-togethers, especially when the conversation is just getting started. Sloppy Joe casserole. In the 1970s, Sloppy Joe casserole showed up often on many American family tables. The recipe comes from the classic Sloppy Joe, a ground beef sandwich in a slightly tangy tomato sauce said to have originated in the 1930s at a cafe in Sioux City, Iowa. In the oven, that same base becomes a one-dish meal. Beef, onion, and green bell pepper are sautéed, mixed with tomato sauce and seasonings, and poured into a casserole dish. On top go biscuits or cornbread batter, which bakes until golden while the filling bubbles. When it comes out, you just cut it into portions and serve. Meat and sauce on one side, crust on the other, all in the same scoop. It was the kind of dish that welcomed tweaks, switching the topping, adjusting the seasoning, using whatever was in the pantry. And when the family asked for seconds, the question came up, which version do we make next time? The tuna gelatin salad is a perfect snapshot of post-war American kitchen boldness. In the 1950s, when gelatin molds took over tables and magazines, someone decided to mix canned tuna into lemon gelatin, a flavor clash that grabbed attention before the first bite. It starts with gelatin dissolved in hot water, then go in the tuna, chopped celery, pimento peppers, and hard-boiled eggs. Everything goes into a mold and into the fridge until set. When it's time to serve, the colorful block lands on lettuce and usually gets mayo, sometimes whipped cream, on top as the finishing touch. Between savory and sweet, it became the star of social luncheons and even dinners, and it also helps explain why that era loved experimenting so much. And what's most interesting is seeing how this idea inspired other molded salads. European-inspired rice pudding lunch bowl. Imagine a midday break that swaps the obvious for simple comfort. A European-inspired bowl of rice pudding made to fit lunch. The base comes from what's already in the kitchen, cooked rice, milk, sugar, and a touch of vanilla, and it goes on low heat, stirred slowly, until it thickens and turns creamy. When the pot starts smelling amazing, the best part kicks in, customizing. A pinch of cinnamon, a spoonful of jam, berries, or nuts changes the whole thing without making it complicated. If the rice is already cooked, it becomes a quick option without losing flavor. You can serve it warm or chilled, working as either dessert or a light lunch. In homes that value convenience, this recipe adjusts to the moment and whatever you've got on hand, and it still leaves your curiosity asking for a new combo every time. Cheese soufflé became popular on 1970s tables, but it was born in France and carries centuries of technique. Soufflé means to puff up, and that's the promise of the dish. The first recorded recipe appeared in 1738 in a book by Vincent Lachapelle. The base is a smooth béchamel, Grated cheese like Gruyere or Comté goes in and melts. The yolks strengthen the structure. Then come the whipped egg whites, folded in gently to keep the air. The batter goes into a buttered dish dusted with breadcrumbs and into the oven until it rises and turns golden. It only stays at its peak for a few minutes, so serving has to be quick, and that's where the cook shows real control. The contrast between a soft center and firmer edges makes every bite worth the wait. If the oven runs uneven or the mixture gets overworked, it exposes the mistake with zero mercy. Bologna boats. Take a quick trip back to classic lunches with bologna boats. The idea came from mid-20th century America. You heat a slice on a griddle or in the oven, and the edges shrink up until it turns into a little boat. Then the fun starts. Stuff it with whatever you've got. Mashed potatoes, melty, stretchy cheese, baked beans, mac and cheese, or chili. In school cafeterias, the shape added a bit of fun to the plate and helped win kids over. And at home, it gave pantry staples a new look, used up leftovers, and kept the grocery bill in check. When time was tight, you just filled them, sprinkled on cheese, and put them back in the oven for a few minutes. From the first bite to the last piece, the dish changes depending on the filling, and that's where it gets interesting because there's always room for a new idea in the boat. Do you remember the classic lunches too? Then, like the video, subscribe, and follow the channel for more meetups with nostalgia.